Stay tuned to meet a man who's been beset with numerous challenges and gives all glory to God for overcoming them. My name is Yvonne Shelton, and you're watching Urban Report. Hello, and welcome to Urban Report. My guest today is Pastor Billy Wright, pastor of the Forest Hills Seventh-day Adventist Church. Welcome to Urban Report, Pastor Wright.
Well, thank you, Yvonne. Just happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy that you could take the time out to talk to our audience today, because you have had a very interesting journey, and we really want to share that with our audience today. So thank you so much for taking the time out to do so. Give us a little bit of background. Where did you grow up, and how did you grow up? Were you a Christian, or did you grow up in a Christian home?
I grew up in a Christian home. My mom had become a Seventh-day Adventist. My father was not at first, but then he became one. I came up in the city of Texarkana, Texas. It's a small town. I liked it. It was not the country, but close to the country. It's one of the twin cities in the US of A, Texarkana, Texas, and Texarkana, Arkansas. Of course, I claim the Texas side. That's where I was born.
And as you were growing up, what kinds of challenges did you face growing up?
Well, one was in school, in high school, junior high, and also all the way back down to grade school. All of the main programs for the schools took place on Sabbath. And of course, they always wanted me to be a part of the programs. And I would share with them why I could not be a part of the program, because they was having the programs on the Lord's Sabbath. And it was like, what you mean the Lord's Sabbath? And then I would take them to the Bible or quote the text to give to them. This is what God said. They said, well, can't you go to your pastor and ask your pastor to give you a pass? I said, no, I can't do that. I said, the pastor is not my God. I said, my God is the one who's over all, and I give allegiance and loyalty to him and him alone. So I said, I can't do that. That wouldn't help me.
There you go.
But in spite of what I said, that's still what they wanted me to do.
Isn't it something how, I love the fact that you said it's the Lord's Sabbath, or, not, because a lot of people will say, well, that's your Sabbath. No, it's not your Sabbath. It's the Lord's Sabbath. You couldn't make it a holy day. God made it a holy day, and you were honoring that. When you told them no, were they able to make allowances for that, or were you just not able to be a part of the teams?
I was not able to be a part of the team. And when I was in high school, I went on and played basketball. And since I was such a good player, when I told them I couldn't play on Friday nights, but I would gladly come in Saturday night after sundown and play. And so the coach at that time decided he would talk with some of the other teams that we had to play and see if they would make adjustments on the schedule. And amazingly, God worked it out, and they changed the schedule, which was most unusual, so that I could play for Dunbar on the Saturday night.
Oh, that's beautiful. Praise the Lord for that. And what a great witness. What a great witness that was. Give us a little bit more insight into your educational journey. Where did you commence your educational journey?
Okay, well, I left high school. I did not walk across the stage because my belief system was it's the Lord's Sabbath, and because of that, I should give God the honor on his day. So I took my diploma behind the scenes. I was one of the vice presidents for that class, but prior to that, in my junior and sophomore years, I was the president of the class. I was in what was called an accelerated class. Of course, today they have different lingo for that. But we were separated from the rest of the classes, and we were put into advanced classes to study. And for 3 years, I was in the electronics class for 3 hours every day. And then I left there in 1965. I graduated, and I went to Prairie View A&M University. And that's where I attended studying electrical engineering. And while I was there, I found some of my classmates that I didn't know was there. And so they were always asking me questions about the Bible and all of that. And then God, as I put it, was bothering me at the time. Wanted me to go into ministry, but I had other plans. I had already told God that what I was going to do was still be a worker for him, but I would be a Bible worker. And as a Bible worker, I would go out and do studies. I had already landscaped the land that I was going to purchase, and had also built a house through graphics and all of that. So I had it laid out. But God kept bothering me. Students kept coming to me with questions about the Bible, and I would answer the Bible. And finally, it got to the point where I asked God, I said, okay, God, tell you what, why don't you just leave me alone for a year? Don't bother me about going into ministry or preaching for you. Just leave me alone. And you know what? God did exactly that. But my friends, when they heard that I was going to be maybe going off into ministry, thinking about it, they were not too happy about the situation at PV. And they said, but be right. They said, you're not going anywhere. We are going to keep you here. I said, well, you guys don't have that power. So one night in the dormitory, my friend, my roommate had gone home, and I was in my room. And there I was there praying, talking about God's goodness and how he had blessed me there at PV. And thanking him how he had intervened on my behalf with the ROTC and also with the person who was the highest ranking officer in the Army at that time, which I ended up going to him because I did not bear arms. And in ROTC, you had to bear arms, but I refused. And so when they heard, the lieutenants heard that I was going to the big man, they were sort of happy. So, oh, he's in trouble now. Won't obey us, won't obey our commands. He's in trouble. He's going to the top guy. He has called him in now. But you know, prayed about it, went into the man, and he said, Cadet Wright? I said, yes, sir. He said, your case is most unusual. We have never had anything like this in our history. He said, there's not going to be any punishment because each person who comes out of this institution generally would go into the Army as a, I think it was a lieutenant, as a lieutenant. And if you're not bearing arms, then I explained to him, I said, sir, I would be a medic, which means that I would be out there on the battlefield, but what, taking care of the wounded without a weapon, which shows bravery. And he listened to that. He said, I've never encountered that before. He said, I tell you what, he said, I'm going to allow you to finish out this semester, but you have to make a choice to stay with that, bear arms, or we might have to ask you to release, or we might have to relinquish you from the ROTC. I told him that was fine, no problem, but I would give him an answer later. But my mind was basically made up then. I was going to remain a medic and not bear arms. And the way that turned out, it turned out in my favor. But during that time, I was in my room praying, and it was a Friday night, never forget. And while I was praying, I heard a voice. Bill Wright, Bill Wright. And of course, I said, well, nobody's in the room but me. My roommate is gone.
So was it an
So,
audible? Was it an audible voice, or was it in your mind, an impression?
no, audible voice that actually caused me to stop praying. And I said, well, nobody's here. Let me keep on praying. I went back to praying again, and then I heard the voice again. Bill Wright, Bill Wright. So this time I got up and looked around and I called my classmate's name. I said, "Oh, you're in the room playing games. Have you come back in the room with me not being aware of it?" And no response. So at this time I began to feel a little uneasy. So I got back on my knees a third time and prayed. And this time I heard again, Bill Wright, Bill Wright. What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And when I heard that, I said, oh, that's you, God. You back again, huh? I said, it is 1 year. Okay, I said, I did tell you I'll give you an answer after 1 year. So I went outside in the dormitory, looked up into the sky to the stars, talking to him. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I will go ahead and do what you've asked me to do. I will go into ministry. I will go to your school of the prophets. And that's what I did. But my classmates, oh, they were so upset. You're going to lead this engineering, electrical engineering. You are an honor student, and you're going to lead this and go off and be some poor preacher? I said, yes. I said, you guys can't change my mind. I said, God and I have been talking about this for over 1 year, and he has come to me, and I have told him, okay. They're like, I say, okay, we'll see. So in those days, the guy, they have certain names they call you, and so they call themselves shaming me out of it. So the next day, I'm out on the campus with all these students, and somebody's calling Mother Divine. Hey, Mother Divine, Mother Divine. And I'm like, well, who are they talking to? So I turned around to see, and they were all looking at me. And I told the Lord, I'm not answering them. I said, I'm not Mother Divine, and I don't want people looking at me like I'm Mother Divine.
There used to be a Father Divine back in the day.
Correct.
There used to be a Father Divine up in the New York area, and he had an interesting reputation. So for them to call you Mother Divine, I guess they were trying to infer that you were somehow related to him.
Well, they're trying to shame me out of it. Rather than call me Father Divine, we were going to call you Mother Divine.
Right.
So I told God I was not going to answer. But the Lord said, no, I want you to answer them. I said, no, I'm not going to answer them. Lord said, answer them. So reluctantly, I answered back when they said, hello, Mother Divine. I said, hello, how are you guys doing? And then I tried it one more time, and after that, I never heard it again. I said, okay, Lord, I see you have it all figured out. Thank you. And so they never bothered me anymore on that. But I did leave. I called Oakwood College, School of the Prophets, went home and shared my experience with my mother as to what had happened. She thought I was crazy at first. Said, son, you're not giving up engineering. I said, yes, ma'am, God and I have had a conversation. But she said, you need something to fall back on. I said, no, ma'am. I said, since God is calling me out of engineering into ministry, I don't need a backup. I don't need a backup. So I said, I'm going to let God do his thing. Now, I had told God the reason that I would never be a minister was because the lifestyle was so nomadic. Pastors come to a church for 2 years, then they move them. 3 years, then they move him. 3 was the max. After 3 years, you were moved. So I told God, no, I'm not coming into ministry for that. But now here I am saying, okay, I'll come and do what you've asked me to do. And I've never looked back. And, but after 1 year, Oakwood had not called me yet. So I told my mom, I said, I'm packing my bags. I'm going back to Prairie View and finish my engineering. And my mom called my pastor, Elder Rayford Warner. He came to the house and now your mother has shared with me your journey, how God had called you to ministry. And she tells me today that you are headed back to Prairie View A&M. I said, yes, sir. He said, well, don't be so hasty in this thing. I said, well, I'm not being hasty. I have given that school almost a year to correspond with me. I haven't heard anything, so I'm going back to what I know. I have given God his chance. And so, long story of it, he said, well, there's another school, but only one problem with it. He said, it's a white school, all white school. They don't have blacks there. I said, well, sir, that's not a problem for me. I said, our parents have never taught us anything about black or white. People are just people. So I said, that's not a problem. So he said, well, I can take you there tomorrow and let you see the place. I said, sir, tomorrow will be too late. I will be on the bus tonight on my way back to Prairie View. I said, if you are going to take me somewhere, you need to take me today. And so he said, he thought for a moment. He said, okay, I'll drive you down to Southwestern Adventist. At that time, it was Southwestern Union College. He said, I'll take you there. He took me there, and it was interesting. I came in for registration, and they said, well, young man, how much money do you have? How are you going to support yourself? I said, sir, I only have one dime in my pocket, and I have my suitcase, and that's it. I said, now God has sent me down here. I said, now if you want to send me away, that's you and God. I said, I don't have a problem with it. So they said, well, how you expect to go to school and you don't have money? I said, that's up to you and God. I said, that's not for me. I said, give me a job and I'll make money. Show me once and I have it. I said, that's how God has blessed me. So they said, well, son, we don't have the money. You don't have the money. You just have a dime. That's not going to get you through. I said, well, gentlemen, lady, I thank you all for your time. And I said, Elder Warner, we can go. And I said, folks, I have done what God has asked me to do, and you have told me to go. So that's on your hand that I'm not here carrying out his plan. So you have a good day. And we walked on out of the building. And then as we was going out the door, I heard somebody calling out, hey, you, hey, you. And I said, Elder Warner, somebody calling us? Well, no, my name is not Hey You. So we turned around, and this guy that almost made it to us, he said, hey, you. I said, you talking to us? I said, yeah, you. They want you to come back down there. I said, who wants me to come back down there? Those people sitting at that table down there want you to come back to them. I said, those people? I said, they just told me to go. He said, yes. He said, I know, but they want you to come back. They want to talk with you some more. So I turned around, Elder Warner and I turned around and went back down there. They said, well, we thought since you have that type of faith and trust in God, we're going to do something we haven't done before. We're going to let you into the school without the money that you should have.
Wow.
We will seek to get you a job so that you can earn money, as you said. And that's how I got into Southwestern Adventist University. A dime in my pocket and nothing else. Nobody but God working. And that's what I did. Got that job and worked it every summer. And God blessed me mightily.
Amen.
But while I was there at the university, we did have some challenges. Now remember, that was back in 1967. And prejudice was still very high. And that city was a Confederate town, along with the town right next to it called Cleburne, Texas, named after General Cleburne. Very prejudiced. But when I got there, I found out later there were two families there, the Brown family from Shreveport. and the Domino family from Tyler, Texas. They were there. And then there were 3 other students there that I didn't know, but there before me. I didn't know any of these people were there, but once I started, that's when I discovered that these folks were there, so I felt even better.
So you weren't the only black student in the school? There were
No, 3 others. There was a young lady from Oklahoma, Ellen Jackson. There was Judy Hayes from Shreveport, Louisiana, and Jack Morris, the late Jack Morris, Pastor Jack Morris from Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, I knew him and I knew Judy, but I didn't know the other young lady. And when I came to the campus, I really brought the color. I brought real color. Everybody else just blended in with the people. But I said, here I am. Campus is now integrated.
Yeah. So how did that work for you? Like, did you feel as though God placed you there to kind of be some kind of bridge between the races, or were you outcast? Like, how did you navigate that?
Well, I feel he brought me there for that purpose and for his own plan to help save some of the young preachers that was going to be in ministry that did not speak to blacks. Those were the days of Vietnam, and the guys coming out and doing all type of crazy stuff on campus. And while I was there, we had some challenges. The KKK flag was burned outside of Jack Morris's room. He had a roommate by the name of Marvin, who was a full-blood Apache, Native American, because the school at that time would not allow a white student to room with a black student. But a black student and a Native American could room together because they dumped us into the same category. So what happened to me? Through that prejudice, I got a blessing because now I had a room all to myself. I had 2 beds, 2 closets, 2 everything. And so I enjoyed my big room to myself because of prejudice. And I said, now, boy, isn't that something? But that was the school policy at that time. Blacks could not room with whites, and Native Americans could not room with whites. But we bonded up, and what I did, I had a habit of learning where some of the prejudiced young preachers were going to be for his prayer meetings. And you see, in a prayer meeting, you can say whatever you want to say to God. You're talking to God, not to the people. So I had one guy, I won't call his name, but he wouldn't even part his lips to a black guy. But yet he was going to be a minister. I said, okay, God, you have to help me discover what prayer group he's in. And I'm going to go and join that prayer group. And I said, there I can share your goodness, your will, and in time, maybe the Holy Spirit can break this young man's spirit so that he can become receptive to people of color. And you know, the prayers paid off because one day in Fort Worth, Texas, Pastor Morris and I was there going to Seminary South Mall. That was a big mall in Fort Worth. Everyone would go there. And all of a sudden we heard somebody say, hey, Bill, hey, Jack. We kept walking. And then we heard the same thing again. And we looked in the direction of the voice. And we looked, squinched our eyes. I said, Jack, isn't that so-and-so, so-and-so? He said, yeah. I said, I can't believe that. I said, nor do I. But I said, God is working. So we yelled back at him, how you doing, so-and-so? How you doing? Because now even in public, he's acknowledging us as black people. Because that's not something he would do. He wouldn't even speak to us. But I guess prayers were working God's prayers, God petitioning God on behalf of that young man. And he went on to the point where he started associating with blacks. He became a pastor, and he ended up having people of color in his congregation. And I thank God for how God worked that miracle on that young man.
Yes, God is so good because he knows our hearts, and the young man obviously was operating from a place of ignorance, not
Yes.
having had any exposure to any other culture. And of course, to God, there's no black, no white. There's no slave nor free, Jew nor Greek. I mean, we're just all the same, male or female. We're all the same in God's sight. But unfortunately, especially during that time, I mean, we can see such a difference now in the way people are treated and black folks are treated and all. But back then, and I lived in that era as well, and it's, thank God that a lot of the ignorance has been dispelled. And it's a blessing. We have just a couple of minutes left, and I don't know where this time has gone, because I know you have some great stories, and I wanted to hear some more about your health and all that. But what would you say to a young person who is being called into ministry? Give us like 1 minute, if you would, and talk to that young person who is being called into ministry and resisting. What would you say to that person?
Don't run from the call. When you know God has called you, just submit to the will of God and do it. And know that God has already promised, I will never leave you or forsake you. I will always be there with you. And that's very, very important. And when we do that, you're doing the will of God, and God will constantly bless you. Now, one thing I'd just like to share here, we mentioned about health. I've been plant-based since I was 14, and I'm at 77 right now. But this is cayenne pepper. It's in the little vial. I'm not sure if you can see it there, but this little vial has 90,000 heat units of cayenne pepper in it. If you feel like you're having a heart attack, just throw some of this under your tongue. Get it in your mouth, and this will stop a heart attack in its tracks. This is what happened to me on December 2nd. I've always kept it, but I didn't keep it on me. You keep it on you. I had it in my car. The time that you need it, you need to be able to reach in your pocket or your purse and pull it out and get it under your tongue. It can save your own life or the life of somebody else, and it will stop the heart attack. It has to be 90,000 heat units and above.
Okay.
Anything below that is not going to stop the heart attack.
Well, thank you. It's kind of like, we have like 30 seconds, so it's kind of like a nitro, right? It's kind of like a nitro, but it's a natural nitro. Of course, on this network, we have to say, of course, check with your physician first, because you just need to know from your physician what's best. I can't believe our time is up. Thank you so much, Pastor Wright, for being with us, and thank you, our audience, for joining us today. Join us next time, because you know what? It just wouldn't be the same without you.